also founded and registered as a trust in terms of the laws of Zimbabwe in November 2012. ZDI generate and disseminate innovative ideas, cutting-edge research to advance democracy, development, good governance, and human rights in Zimbabwe.
So as a result, some of the chiefs were labeled as sellouts, and some of them were killed by the liberation fighters, whilst others were detained by the Rhodesian security for supporting the nationalists. So if you look at the studies pertaining to this topic today, we can see that from the colonial period to independent Zimbabwe today, the relationship between the ZANU-PF party, which is the ruling party, and the traditional leadership has evolved into one where the traditional leaders act as an intermediary domination between the state and the people. So currently, the institution of traditional leadership, that nothing substantive, Brighton, was done to dissuade others from implementing his political views. This was a clear case of impunity following the wanton disregard of the law by that traditional leader. And recently, Brighton, I want to give you a recent example that happened on 20 April this year. That is last week, during the official opening of the refurbished Mondoro Hospital in Mumbaira, that is Mashonaland West Province. The vice president or the vice secretary of ZANU-PF party, Kempo Mohadi, revealed that the traditional leaders have already agreed to frog march their subjects to polling stations to vote for the ruling party. He actually said, and I quote, "In the meeting we have had with chiefs and headmen, they have assured us," that is the ZANU-PF party, "they have assured us of victory. In fact, on voting day, the headman will marshal his subjects and ensure that they all voted for his votes last. This we will do so that we take stock and make sure that what we taught each other is followed." And I close quote. So, Brighton, you can see that these statements by Charumbira as well as Mohadi, they review the capture of the traditional leadership institution and its integration into a larger securocratic or military pervasive infrastructure for cohesion of rivals ZANU-PF by the ZANU-PF party. So with this traditional leadership so captured by ZANU-PF or else into ZANU-PF patronage networks, it is very hard now for the opposition or any democratic forces to penetrate into those constituencies that are in charge, that are ruled by the traditional leadership. If you look, Brighton, at our latest report that we published here at Zimbabwe Democracy Institute, titled "The Electoral Impregnability of the Rural Constituencies in Zimbabwe," it revealed that the traditional mobilized citizens under the ZANU-PF banner to participate in creative attacks against members of the then opposition MDC Alliance party. And this happened on 11 October 2021. So to enable the traditional leadership to perform this gatekeeping role, the PF government has made the institution of this traditional leadership very strong, right on, to such an extent that these traditional leaders have given heft pegs such as top of the range vehicles. I am sure you remember recently the chiefs were given top of the range vehicles, and also their homes have been electrified, as well as the upliftment of the roads that lead to their homes, among other goodies. So, given this background, you see that the traditional leaders have served as an active and non-local ZANU-PF leadership. Instances of commandeered voting, Brighton targeted intimidation of opposition supporters, economic sanctions through exclusion from food handouts. You know that the food relief that comes from government, when it reaches the rural areas, they portray it as food that is coming from the ZANU-PF party, not from the government. So see that even access to land, residence, government, social support is also run via these traditional leaders in the rural constituency. All these issues, they fall under the menu of electoral manipulation, that is elections without democracy, that is associated with the studies of scholars like Schedler, 2002. But Brighton, it is important to highlight that the relationship between the ruling party ZANU-PF and traditional leaders is based on ZANU-PF's cost-benefit analysis, thereby making it situational as well as able to change. So the traditional leaders, they bend, should I say, to the whim of the of every ruler who is in power at that particular time to secure their power. For example, the traditional authorities, that is the chiefs and the headmen and the village heads, were key conduits of the colonial authoritarian state as they were used to enforce the settler politics in native areas, as we have said earlier on. But Brighton, I think it is very important, given that you have given me 5 minutes. Let me just go on to what ought to be the most desirable situation. So the constitution, like what you have said, it is very clear in terms of what the traditional leaders ought to do and ought not to do in respect to politics and elections. So if you look at section 281, subsection 2, paragraph A to D, so it stipulates that the traditional leaders must not be members of any political party or in any way participate in partisan politics, act in partisan manner, further the interests of any political party, or cause or violate the fundamental rights and freedoms of any person. But as you have looked at what I was saying earlier on, there's a present breach of this constitutional provision, which points to a case of lack of rule of law and constitutionalism. And Brighton, this is likely to be one of many reasons why we are going to have a disputed 2023 election outcome. So, by and large, as I conclude, Brighton, the traditional leaders, as a pillar of Zimbabwe's secular class, they are co-opted the secular class group and used to control the rural communities to ensure that the ZANU-PF elections. So if you look at the studies that were done by Kureba 2018, even by us, the Zimbabwe Democracy Institute in 2017, you see that this traditional leadership institution is a pillar of Zimbabwe secular class, and it's co-opted into the secular class group, which is used to enforce the infrastructure for cohesion of rivals in the rural area. So I think without giving you the recommendations, I would not have done justice. So let me just give you a rundown of recommendations in light of this problem that we are faced with here in Zimbabwe.
But say, before you go to recommendations, maybe let's engage what you just spoke about now, your presentation, before you go to your recommendations.
Okay.
You speak about the Traditional Leaders Act. It does not mention explicitly the roles of the provisions. It does not mention the role of traditional leaders in politics, right? And also the electoral activities. But it goes on not to also touch on the code of conduct of traditional leaders. What's your take on that issue there? That says the Traditional Leaders Act does not touch on the code of conduct of traditional leaders and also their role in politics. What's your comment on that? You can unmute your mic and go ahead to the contribution.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brighton. So it comes back to the issue of the harmonization of acts of parliament and other statutes with the constitution, the national constitution, which is the soup of the land. So if you look at that Traditional Leadership Act, it is not aligned to the constitution of Zimbabwe. So I think what the parliament should do now is to harmonize or to align that Traditional Leadership Act with the constitution of Zimbabwe, which is very clear in terms of the conduct of traditional leadership in political and electoral affairs. So it's a case of whereby we have the acts of parliament and other statutes that are not aligned with the constitution of Zimbabwe, and it is very problematic And this is not related to the topic of today, but you can look at other spheres of the political economy where the laws that apply there are not in harmony with the constitution of Zimbabwe.
Thank you so much, Stanford Nyatanza from ZDI for that presentation and for answering that question. Quite interesting outcomes from their investigations and research in terms of the role of chiefs and even the history that he
to vote and so on, and defend the vote, defend their land. For me, it was quite like the involving of chiefs in political activities. What's their role in terms of partisanship? Are they partisan or non-partisan? Are they supposed to disclose their partisanship in the public? So what happens now if the code of conduct, I spoke about the code of conduct, if they break that code of conduct, what happens to them? It's quite interesting what you was presenting on.
Yes, and even the things that you were speaking about, I noticed that these are things that we have seen for a lot over the years, and we've actually come to, some people have actually come to think that it's actually what is supposed to be happening.
But also my question has been over the years, are traditional leaders accountable to the government or are they accountable to the people? I've been asking myself these things for many times, saying, are people accountable to me as a citizen, or they're accountable to me as a villager, or are they accountable to the president or the government of the day? Maybe you can respond to that before we go to the recommendation and take other questions from the audience this morning. You can go ahead and mute your mic and go ahead with the contribution this morning.
Okay, thank you very much, Brighton. In terms of accountability now, the traditional leadership, the power over the subjects, which are the citizens who are residing in their spheres of influence. So, in terms of accountability now, I think they are not directly accountable to the citizens. That is their subject, but they are accountable to the. And if you look at the research that was done by Kiasa that I highlighted earlier on, Citizens in Action, Southern Africa, you can see that one of the traditional chiefs who made political statements that favored ZANU-PF, he was taken to court, and the magistrate there ruled that the traditional leadership should not by any way utter something that directly influence in a negative way one party. So you can see that if this traditional leadership can be taken to court, it means they are accountable to the institutions of the state, that is the government. So in terms of accountability, they are also accountable to the government, just like any other institution of the state. Thank you, Beto.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyatanza, for responding. So, guys, if you are listening to this morning on Asake today, we are talking to. We have a guest, Mr. Stanford Nyatanza from the Zimbabwe Democracy Institute, and we're talking about the role of traditional leaders versus their constitutional mandate. So, if you've been here and you've heard his contribution, his presentation this morning, please do request the mic if you have any questions, so that for your comments and your questions. But for now, I see we've been joined by Tsepang. Good morning, Tsepang. Do you have any questions for Mr. Nyatanza?
Hello, I just wanted to respond to the issue of accountability, which I think Mr. Nyatanza has done justice. And I just wanted to share a brief comment to say I think the other challenge perhaps is that villagers are not aware of their rights. There is a difference between respecting a traditional leader or it's a public bearer and seeking accountability or being able to clearly tell or communicate with that leader to say, no, I think here you must be towing the line, because the roles are well outlined in the country's constitution under section 282. Yes, it's clearly outlined. Even the principles are clearly outlined. So when it comes to being partisan when a traditional leader now starts to speak in a partisan manner, it's the duty of the villagers as a whole. Because if you are one villager and you are the only one who is speaking, you are subject to be harassed, or you are subject to be banished or chased away from that particular area. So it still goes back to strengthening citizen accountability so that these people that occupy various positions or do not have a platform they can act willy-nilly. Traditional leaders are there to facilitate development. Traditional leaders are there to ensure that there is harmony and cohesion, and also to maintain or ensure that our customary and cultural activities and values continue to be upheld. So they are the custodians of culture. Nowhere where it applied that traditional leaders should be seen meddling in politics. Remember, they are there to lead. People who are coming from the opposition and people who are coming from the ruling party. So, in order for harmony and tranquility to prevail, they must be seen by people as respectable individuals, as people whom they can trust, even when they have challenges, even when they hold their traditional courts, Because when a traditional leader openly says, I belong to ZANU-PF or I belong to CCC, when you go to the courts, they will act in a brazen and partisan, especially in cases where maybe the accused is known in the village to be belonging to the opposition. So all this is clear. People need to just know. They just need to be conscientized and be empowered enough so that they execute their civic duties. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tsepang, for your contribution this morning. Quite interesting what you're bringing up there in terms of, especially on the villager side, to say, ignorance is costing us a lot. And I really hope that, people will be conscientized to learn more about their rights and also get to learn more about the role of traditional leaders and their constitutional
I see this morning I joined by Bashona. Bashona, good morning. Welcome to this morning on a side. What's your contribution this morning towards the topic that I was speaking about?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the topic and good morning. Brighton, there's a propaganda machine that I need to correct here, which is not good and which is not factual. There's this saying that chiefs are being pampered. My brother from ZDI was saying that chiefs are being pampered vehicles, what. That propaganda should stop. And I don't think it's democracy which is trying to preach here. Chiefs, under the same constitution that he's talking about, I never heard him talking about the benefits of chiefs. But he was busy doing propaganda that chiefs are being pampered vehicles. Yet it's the mandatory of the government through Ministry of Local Government to make sure that chiefs are given vehicles to use in their respective territories. In actual fact, they are not given enough. Yet they control a bigger constituency than MP. That propaganda should stop. I don't think we are doing good for ourselves. Honestly, it's really, really important we revisit that same constitution that he was talking about, that chiefs are violating or they are not being, constitutional when they are saying that we support this part, when they support this part. Let's go back to history, Brighton. What does history tell us? The history is very clear in Zimbabwe, right? The history tells us that chiefs are the ones who form these political parties that you are seeing today. It is not a secret. Chiefs are the ones who send the war veterans to go and fight for this land because their land was taken away by the settlers. These chiefs that we are talking about today are the ones who formed this political party called ZAPU and ZAN. Why? Because their land was taken away, from them by the white settlers. So today they can justify, they can support the political party they feel like. What does history tell us? The history is very clear in Zimbabwe, right? The history tells us that Chiefs are the ones who form these political parties that you are seeing today. It is not a secret. Chiefs are the ones who send the war veterans to go and fight for this land because their land was taken away by the settlers. These chiefs that we are talking about today are the ones who formed this political party called ZAPU and ZAN. Why? Because their land was taken away, from them by the white settlers. So today they can justify, they can support the political party they feel like. Don't forget this constitution that we are talking about today was written by politicians who were pursuing their own interests, right? And who was funding this crafting of this constitution that we are talking about today? You and I, Brighton, were not there. It was Monzora Mangwana and what's his name? The late what's his name? This guy and the Igbo Mandas of today, getting funding from Europe, and are the ones who put these funny laws that we're seeing today to say that no chiefs, they are not supposed to be part and parcel of politics today. Yet we are coming from the chiefs. These politicians that we are talking about today, they are coming from the chiefs. Go and check your ID. You see it's written under Chief Ningi, Headman Ningi. Go and look at it. It's under the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And today you want to say, no, chiefs are not supposed to be political, what? That thing, trust me, it will not work in Zimbabwe. Whether we like it or not, let's face the reality and let's smell the coffee as it is. Because these chiefs that we are talking about today are the ones who fought for your independence, are the ones who brought this independence that we are talking about today. And if for me, I'm telling you, I'm going to advocate for that section of the Constitution to be amended. Because it doesn't save the people of Zimbabwe. We always call chiefs like as if they don't belong in our society. They are being name calling every day, this, that, there, where. As if I'm not the custodian of this nation. As if I'm not the part and parcel of this nation. The reason why they will come and tell you that they support ZANU-PF or they support this political party, it's because of how we treat them. It's because of how we treat them. We see them as people who are not even supposed to be there. Yet you live and sit in their land, which they've got a right to remove you on that particular piece of land that you live. But we always call them name. If you want to use that constitution, let's use it correct and let's stop name calling them. Let's stick to the facts. Sapang, even if you put the thumbs, it will not change the reality. They will not come and vote for you. Face the reality of life and ask yourself, who is this chief that you are talking about today? That's the honest truth. And we should not think that the chiefs are not supposed to be part and parcel of politics. Yet they sit in Parliament of Zimbabwe. They are members of Parliament, these chiefs, through their council. So why are you telling us that they are not supposed to be in politics? Yet they are members of the members of Parliament. They come up with laws that we're talking about today. I think Chief Charumbira and his deputy should change this constitution, pursue for the change of this constitution, especially that section. Was not doing good for our country. Thank you so much, Brighton.
Well, thanks so much, Bashmana, for that contribution this morning. Quite interesting what you are raising there. Thanks so much for that contribution this morning. I see ZDI. Let's come back to you, Stanford. What's your reaction to the Pang's contribution and also to Bashmana's contribution this morning?
Okay, thank you very much, Brighton. I don't think it's fair to say that we are channeling out propaganda here. Why? Because our discussion today is basically based on the Constitution of Zimbabwe. We are just interpreting what the Constitution says vis-a-vis the conduct of traditional leadership that we have all seen. So for Babashona to say the traditional leaders should support any political party of their choice, I think he is wrong in terms of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, because it is very clear if it goes to section 281, subsection 2. That section explicitly stipulates what the traditional leaders should do. So for Kempo Mohadi, as well as Chief Charumbira in 2017, to come out and say, let's support this political party, I think constitutionally they are wrong. And that is what we are saying here, guided by the Constitution of Zimbabwe. So I don't think is proper.
Let me give Namapasha a chance. Good morning, Namapasha. What's your contribution this morning?
Hello, good morning, Basali. I think I want to respond to the speaker okhulume before this one. Ukuthi they are keen to have the constitution changed. Ukuthi traditional leaders they should do whatever and show who they vote for. I think in as much as we all know that we have a constitution in Zimbabwe that they do not follow. So why should that constitution work at this moment? Do not belong to any party. I'm still thinking. And which part of the constitution or whatever, I'm not going to quote those things because I'm not an expert in those things, that is keeping that man Sikala in prison. Which part of the law is keeping him there? Zingaki izinto that are being done that are against the law. So why should the law only work when it's favoring the ruling party? And when it comes to also to the traditional leaders, can I say, promoting or campaigning for the ruling party? Someone said it is the right because they helped to fight for the liberation. They were not the only people fighting for the liberation of Zimbabwe. They were part. So if they were part of it, they have no right, no reason to take away the rights of the people to make a decision for them to vote for whatever party. If your right is impinging on my right, that is bullying. So if those traditional leaders they encourage or threaten, usually they threaten those people to vote for a certain party. That is a threat. So what happens to the rights of those people from that village? I'm really against that. I don't want that to be changed. Let us have our constitution that is there in the offices that we don't even follow or obey. I'm against any leader, any traditional leader threatening someone if you vote for this, come like Kembo when he said, oh, we've been assured that we are going to win what. That is very wrong. It is not allowed. Can we imagine if an opposition traditional leader had says the same when any of the opposition parties go and campaign? Can you imagine what will happen to them if they say, oh, our traditional leader, who's which party can I think of? I'll think of ZAPU. If a traditional leader will say, oh, our parents have always been ZAPU, the chief has assured us that this is our winners. Can you imagine what the state is going to do to that person? We have to learn to be fair. We have to stop encouraging into that impinge on other people's rights. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Pasha, for that contribution. I'm looking through the Constitution of Zimbabwe here. Section 281 of the Constitution, subsection 2, says the traditional leaders must not be members of any political party, number one, or in any way participate in partisan politics, number one. Number two, act in a partisan manner. Number three, further the interests of any political party or cause. Number four, violate the fundamental rights and freedoms of any person. That's according to the Constitution of Zimbabwe that we all Zimbabweans wrote, right? So I see another speaker, the finals, please. Good morning and welcome to the show. Good morning. You can go ahead with the contribution, sir.
No, I'm not going to take over your show. Good morning. Thanks for the show. Could you just read that part of the Constitution again, please? Thanks.
It's section 281, section 1 of the Constitution, and subsection 2. It says, traditional leaders must not be members of any political party or in any way participate in partisan politics. That's number one. Number two, act in a partisan manner. Number three, further the interests of any political party or cause. Number four, violate the fundamental rights and freedoms of any person. That's the section there I was reading. I see you have other speakers joining us this morning. Brisky, Tulani, good morning, sir. Welcome to this morning on Asaka.
Okay, let me just, no. I just wanted to reiterate. Let me just go ahead and write on quickly. Thanks.
You can go ahead, sir.
Thanks. I hope my good friend Baba Shona will come and rebut that part of the Constitution when he gets a chance. What I'm going to say about my traditional leaders, in terms of the benefits, I come from Murewa, Chief Mangwende. The issue for me, Yama vehicles, when the government is buying 100+ vehicles for my chiefs, yet my hospitals are my ambulance, particularly Murewa Hospital and Nemutoko Hospital. I've got a problem with that. Even Kumudzi, they don't have money in my ambulances. So it's about priorities for me. Why would the government prioritize new vehicles for chiefs, yet our own hospitals do not have my ambulances? So I think it's all about, I don't mind about my benefits if the country, the economy function and our hospitals are being serviced. I think I'll stop there. That's where my issue is in terms of priorities. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Finance, for
sorry,
that.
can I respond to this? I want to go out.
Please wait.
Okay, thank you.
You a chance. Let us give us others a chance. We'll come back to you. Brisky, good morning. Please do go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you, colleagues. Good morning. Yeah, interesting discussion. But maybe let me start here. While I would acknowledge that chiefs form a very important part of our communities and they play a key role, giving them benefits is not what we count. So in as much as I would vouch for that chiefs are supposed to be given whatever they are being given. But the challenge is the current system, that is the current institutions that are there, do not favor maybe a clear role of the chiefs. That's why at the end they become used maybe political tools maybe to favor the interests of the ruling party. But besides that, chiefs are an important system for me. Always with now with chiefs and are not supposed to participate in partisan politics. It's because if he is a chief, is representing people from all walks of life, from political parties. So then if you then vouch for a political party, what are you then saying about other people who belong maybe to a different section of political parties? That's a key maybe factor that should maybe limit the participation of chiefs in political parties. But it's very hard because you notice that even currently the appointment of chiefs sometimes for you to really make it, you are supposed maybe to have taking of some political mass before you maybe to be even as a chief. So with that situation currently, it becomes hard then to say chiefs will never participate unless such a time comes where the clear separation of politics and traditional leadership is saying, but at present we do not have that system that is working currently. Then there's someone who commented that chiefs have always been part of politics. I think to me that's some kind of misinformation or of some sort. The fact that maybe chiefs participated in the liberation struggle doesn't maybe mean that currently they should also maybe always participate. It's allowed that maybe they've got their own political choice, but then vouching them publicly is what we cannot accept as a nation because they represent everyone. What's like this guy? I think that would be my short contribution for now. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for that contribution this morning. I see you have the native son of Pulawa. Please do go ahead and say with the contribution before we go back to Zedai for their remarks and their reactions as well.
Okay. So I wanted to respond to Bashona, who mentioned the issue that it is what you call this. It is quite agreeable that chiefs should be partisan and they should have a party of their own choice, which in this current system of Zimbabwe, it is not a good option. Because first of all, we have to think about the mere fact that even now that constitution states that these chiefs are not supposed to be partisan, but we are seeing a lot of chiefs being partisan. What more when you open doors officially that they should now be partisan? What is going to happen to villagers who are opposing the ruling party anyway? Because we all know that chiefs have now become puppets of the ruling party. Chief Felix Mangwe, the descendants of Chief Gundwan, is not even recognized by the ZANU-PF government as a chief for Intabas because simply he chose to oppose the ZANU-PF regime. And what happened to him? They stripped the chieftains. So what happens when chiefs oppose ZANU-PF? Is ZANU-PF going to accept that chiefs are now opposing them and that chiefs will remain in their place? We all know what's going to happen, especially for us in Matabeleland. This thing of saying that chiefs should be partisan, we all know that our chiefs will be used and they will be used against the people. So this thing of saying that chiefs should be partisan, I strongly dismiss it. And Bashona is only saying that because his party ZANU-PF has to gain for it. And we all know that they want to use every aspect of life in terms of controlling people. They've already have pastors for ED, teachers for ED. Are people really seeing that they're capturing each and every institution that is supposed to have impact on society? They're using it to control people. What more when you open doors for people to, for chiefs to have party of their own choice? We're going to see another massacre in Matabeleland. That is what I'm saying. Of course, now it is happening unofficially that chiefs are partisan, but on the constitution it does not allow them to be partisan. If we officially open for it, the constitution, then we will be opening odds for ZANU-PF to even use it further. I'm saying this strongly in terms of what Bashona was saying. Anyways, and saying on that again, on the mere fact that chiefs were provided vehicles,
in the first place? Why are chiefs being provided vehicles when hospitals do not even have ambulances? Go to Nkai there, go to Cholocho, go to other rural districts. They don't even have ambulances. They don't have vehicles for essential things. And yet chiefs are being given vehicles. Do you really think a chief that supports ZANU-PF, given a vehicle, would go and take a CC supporter who is sick from his homestead to the hospital? That is absurd. It's completely absurd. Bashona is only saying that because he supports ZANU and he wants his party to use this. That is what I'm saying. It's completely absurd. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Native Son of Lion, for your contribution this morning. I think we can now go back to Mr. Stanford Nyatanza to respond and also maybe comment on what has been said so far.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, our discussion, thank you very much. You know, our discussion today, it is based on the constitution that we are currently using. So whatever we discuss, it should always have a backing of the constitution. So for Bashona to say we want to amend the constitution to allow the traditional leadership to have solution to support any part that they want, I think it's unconstitutional at the present moment. Why? Because the constitution to date does not allow that, as we have unraveled section 281. So before I end my presentation, I think it is very much important that we come to the recommendations. If you allow me to do that, the host, can I go ahead with the recommendation?
Yes, you can go ahead with the recommendations. Then you can take other speakers for other contributions.
Okay, thank you very much. So my first recommendation pertains to monitoring and documentation of traditional leadership, their conduct. To say that the civil society must continue to monitor and document the activities of traditional leaders for purposes of evidence-based advocacy. It can also be used for litigation and future reference in reform advocacy, like what we are doing today. I think we have referenced the Charumbira case, then the other case from Mashingo, and also the recent one by Kempo Mohand. And then my next recommendation pertains to capacity building and sensitization of traditional leaders to understand their roles. So more effort should be put in capacity training of traditional leaders so that they really come to understand their constitutional roles as well as their duties in their jurisdictions. And then my third recommendation is more litigation. So the civil society must continue to facilitate evidence-based litigation to push traditional leaders, as well as the ruling party, the government, to implement provisions of the constitution rather than repealing or abrogating, like what Bashona was saying. And then my next recommendation, which is last but not least, is strengthening citizen awareness. I think here one of the speakers, she highlighted that the citizens, they don't know their rights. So I think it is very much important to strengthen the citizen awareness of the provisions of the Constitution on traditional leadership, so that there's robust programming around to make citizens understand the role of traditional leaders, their political limitations, as well as what they can do in the event of infringement. So these are my recommendations today, Brighton. And but before I give you the platform, let me just highlight that the same constitution which Bashona was referring to say the traditional leadership is entitled to benefits. The same constitution also highlighted every citizen must have access to quality health care. So you find out that like the speaker, I think by the name Finals, when he highlighted that some of the hospitals, they have no proper medication. So I think Bashona forgot to highlight that section which also says the health care should also be provided to the citizen. So if you give these goodies to the traditional leadership in the name that they are entitled to those benefits, what about the quality healthcare that is also provided for in the same constitution? And also the timing. I recall one of the presenters, one of the contributors, he highlighted the issue of timing, of channeling out of these goodies to the traditional leadership. You see that the timing is very questionable. To say that around the election time, a few months before the election, that's where you see this traditional leadership given these things that were highlighted, cars and other privilege. So I think let's all be guided by what the Constitution says, for it is the supreme law of the land. Thank you very much, Fred.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyatanda, for those recommendations and for responding to what has been said so far. Let me give a chance to Mzila. Good morning, Mzila. What's your contribution this morning? Mzila, are you still there?
Hello. Yes, I'm still present. It's an interesting topic you're talking about, and it's unfortunate that the government of today has made our chiefs to look like puppets. It's unfortunate that the government of today has made our chiefs to look like puppets, to look like people who are there to act as their commissars, to act as people to make their political party popular. However, I still hold high regard to our chiefs, particularly as they represent the historic events of areas where we come from. I still respect our traditional leaders, and I don't think the traditional leader office should be messed with in the way the current government is doing. It's sort of like it's taking off the I think the importance of how that office should be respected. Even the high office of presidency or in the political side of things should be respecting the chiefs in their respective constituencies. However, what we see now is the high office of politics now is dominating the chiefs. I'm not saying the chiefs should be free for all to do whatever they want, but they have a role to play. Their role is to keep traditions, customs of the people. Now, if chiefs are involved in politics, what happens is they would tend to beat people to fall in line with their ideas, and it shouldn't be that way. What it should be, a chief should be like a father of a family. You can't choose what your children want for their future or who they should like. They should be free agents to make their own choices. And in this regard, we've got vast choices of political parties within our societies. And those political parties should be functioning without anyone feeling guilty that I might fall off in favor of my chief. As I am now, I hold a certain view or in politics, but I respect my chief because of that office of tradition. Whatever that they would say, I will have to listen, and I would believe that the decision of what they're saying, it comes from an informed and well discussed and guided um, uh, uh, manner. They are not informed by politics of a certain party. So they deserve to be looked after. We shouldn't be mourning about the vehicles and all that if the economy was functioning very well and taxes were were collected from all the economic sectors. We shouldn't be complaining, but we are complaining today because we see them being lavishly given things, yet there is a negligence in the other areas of public provisions, such as hospitals and such. So what I'm trying to say is the government or political parties should respect traditional leaders, and it should leave them to do traditional and customary things instead of bringing them into politics, cause that it creates divisions within society, and our chiefs should be bringing cohesion within society, not bringing headaches within society. I thank you.
Thanks so much for that contribution, Mzila, this morning. Unfortunately, guys, we've come off to run out of time this morning. Thank you so much for all the guests that joined us this morning.
Sorry, Brighton. I just want to respond to a few things, if you don't mind.
Bashwana, if I give you the mic now, someone also want to respond. So it's to be
no, but I just wanted to correct because people just calling my
No,
name and.
I also want to respond.
It's
We are not
like
opening our mouths.
this one to be back and forth, right? So what we should do now is to end the space. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us this morning. Thanks so much to ZTI, Zimbabwe Democracy Institute, for being part of this conversation this morning.
But you see, Brighton, you allowed people.